I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis, a mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Yeah, everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak Live.
Welcome to HoopSpeak Live. I'm Beckley Mason. Our co-hosts, as always today, Zach Harper and Ethan Sherwood-Strauss. We're about a week into the NBA season. Seeing some awesome basketball so far. And we are guestless today. So we're just going to be rolling, talking about your questions. Get the audience questions in now. We've got some stuff from Twitter we'll be dealing with. And yeah, let's start with last night's game. The game of the night,
Warriors Kings.
It was not Warriors Kings. It was Clippers Cavs. Did you catch that one, Ethan?
I did catch that one. I was cheating on the Warriors for a lot of the. Zach has an argument about Brooklyn, Minnesota, but we'll for the moment talk about Clippers Cavs. It was just wonderful. It felt like Star Wars when Luke was going against Darth Vader between Kyrie Irving and Chris Paul. They're the best dribblers in basketball. It was joyous, and Dion Waiters was getting rewarded for just phenomenally stupid decision making. Incredibly rewarded, incredibly bad decisions.
Zach, do you want
Yeah, I would love to. It's easily Brooklyn, Minnesota. That was the game of the night. I mean, Clippers Cavs was really fun, but Minnesota on the road without their two best players, down 22 in the third quarter, comes back and wins. Just insane shooting by the Nets through the first 2.5 quarters. Went 13 of 19 from three. Didn't make one, I think, after like the 8-minute mark of the third quarter. And those scrappy little Timberwolves by Alexei Shved and Dante Cunningham sandwiches and J.J. Barea's leadership and Chase Bunder's shooting. All kinds of good stuff coming out of there.
Yeah, Cunningham can really play, and he does a lot of useful things at that mobile 4 position. And he's a guy who was on Memphis for a little bit, and Memphis seems to just know how to get these kind of players. I watched their game last night. Quincy Pondexter, just so useful off the bench. Jared Bayless, Dante Cunningham. Mo Spates. They just always find really good 6 through 9 guys, and I'm in the process of investigating why Memphis doesn't have a better offense. They look pretty good down the stretch. In the last one, it was one of those games where they play through Marc Gasol and he has 8 assists, and that's all good. But yeah, Cunningham again, one of those guys who just does stuff that's helpful.
I think a big story, and I hope that it remains true, Andrei Kirilenko looks back. He looks like the old Andrei Kirilenko suddenly coming back from Russia. I'm very excited about this. Perhaps as it's in Minnesota, people aren't really paying attention, but he has a unique game, and man, he's kind of looked like their best player so far.
I think he's definitely been their best player, and he had 16, 10, 6, and 4 last night, and really didn't do a whole lot in the second half in terms of getting stats. He had a good third quarter, but fourth quarter hardly played, and really just you can tell from being in the locker room and just being around the team a little bit that his mentorship with Alexei Shved is really that's the most important part of it for the second unit, is him getting Shved on the same page and getting him to be confident and to play kind of like he did in Russia last year and with the national team.
Yeah, so I have to admit, I didn't see this game and this comeback. My attention was elsewhere. In the games when I had watched Shved earlier in the year, he looked terrible. So what happened last night that he was, everyone was on his job, so to speak?
They kind of just let him play. Like they threw him out there and he was running pick and rolls and he was spotting up for threes. And once he hit his first three, you could tell he had a little bit of confidence. Like, hey, I finally got one to go. It was in rhythm. It was good. It was within the offense. And from there on, he just seemed to be pretty aggressive. He took a couple of bad shots off pick and rolls, which people that watched him in Russia will remember quite well, where he just guns coming around the screen. But for the most part, he just looked like he finally had some confidence with the ball. He wasn't hesitant at all.
Yeah, it's a really fun team. I worry that it's almost a loaded term. It seems like we're saying that because they're white and there's a novelty value, but they're just a lot of fun. They shouldn't be good defensively because not only do they share a whiteness as a feature, they share a lack of length. Shved, Berea, Kevin Love, who's not back yet. Pretty much almost everybody except for Karolinko is stubby, and for a team defense in the aggregate, I'd have to think that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they are slow defensively is really a problem. I don't know. Their defense has been good so far. It was actually good against Toronto the other night. They just had so many turnovers that it really screwed them over. But they have to play defense as a unit, and they've done that so far. And I don't know that is sustainable. But if Love and Peck can just be decently mobile on defense, they should be okay with Karolinko.
Yeah, they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on him. Someone who is not stubby and quite a good defender, played some very fun basketball last night. Eric Bledsoe, the only Clipper who had a positive plus minus besides, of course, Lamar Odom, who played 2 minutes and was +5. But I know single game plus minus doesn't matter that much, but the game opened with Kyrie scoring 16 points in the first quarter, basically doing whatever he wanted. Willie Green / Chris Paul guarding him. And it would be one thing to not have Bledsoe play 30 minutes if you're going against some team with a post-centric attack or something where you're not getting killed by the exact player he's designed to stop. And they put him on Kyrie in the fourth, and aside from that big three he hit where Bledsoe might have been supposed to trap, he really gave him trouble, was getting deflections on passes coming out of his hand, denying him angles to the hoop. I think that, we underrate how impactful a guy who can just keep someone from getting where he wants to go on the court can be. And Bledsoe is like one of 2 guys in the whole league who can do that.
Yeah, when you said he was letting Kyrie Irving was doing whatever he wanted, and you said Willie, I thought you were going to say Nilly, but you said Green, and I just thought that really flows. He was letting him do whatever he wanted, Willie Green, as a new American phrase. That almost seems to be a role. The ball pressure guy seems to be a new role in basketball. Boston had it. I noticed it with Avery Bradley last season, and then when Avery Bradley went down with an injury, they just put Keon Dooley in the same exact role as the guy who's going to pressure it. So I wonder, why is it that it's usually only one guy who does this?
Well, I just don't think there are that many guys who can do it. I think I was a little disappointed in last night's game for the fact that I just wanted to see Chris Paul and Kyrie Irving square off against each other, and then they had to get all basketball-y and get schematic and actually have some strategy, and so they put Bledsoe on Kyrie, and they had Alonzo G, denying Chris Paul the ball a lot in the fourth quarter, which was a great strategy. It worked quite a bit, but it was a little anticlimactic just for those reasons.
Yeah, well, there was also, I think, can you hear me?
Yeah. You disappeared for a little while.
Am I with you?
Yes, you are.
I'm back. But important to note about Chris Paul, who, again, ran some great offense, threw a good pass to Griffin. He left Waiters wide open in the corner twice for those big threes down the stretch. And just want to point out that it's nice to get excited about Dion Waiters, but it drives me insane when people freak out about a guy who has a hot shooting night as though he just played a great game.
Yeah.
Those are two separate things. As anyone who has watched Willie Green can tell you, just about anyone in the NBA can get hot from three if they get 10 shots from that distance. Does not a great game make. Anyway, there was this odd moment, and this will be our segue to talking about Blake Griffin. There's this odd moment where Chris Paul went in the lane, jumped up, and it looked like the ball just sort of slipped out of his hands. And Blake Griffin was cutting to the hoop, and then all of a sudden the ball was in his lap, and you're like, oh,
so cool.
God, he traveled. He couldn't figure out what to do with the ball. And this was a game that made a lot of people say, hey, hasn't Blake Griffin regressed? Where do you guys stand on this?
I disagree with he could be right. Chris Ballard tweeted it out, saying that he kind of thought that Blake Griffin regressed and he was taking a pull from various people. And we've talked about how Griffin got his catch and shoot up to around 37% last year. And once it's over 40, that will be the threshold. That will be the watershed moment where he can use the shot fake and use that devastating handle to get to the rim. I think all of us reject the idea that progression is linear. It doesn't necessarily go that way in the NBA. So I'm not going to write Griffin off after the first few games. I do think it's funny, though, that this has become a big issue with Griffin and not for a lot of other players. My theory is that the Laker fan base is so loud and so influential, and they got mad at the Clipper fan base, and they trumped the Clipper fan base, so they can inject memes and tropes or what have you. They can use their cudgels, and they've really put the crosshairs on Blake Griffin, and there are more questions about his game than there would be for Blake Griffin on another team.
God, that's our first meme trope cudgel trifecta of the season. That was really special. Yeah, I think it's just that everyone wants players to be LeBron now, or be Jordan, or be a complete player. And if a guy shows you something early and doesn't become a complete player within a year or two, then we automatically write him off. Like Carmelo was really good right away. Never really got better. He became a better rebounder. He's a little bit better passer than he used to be, but he didn't become LeBron, and everyone hates him now. If Kyrie Irving doesn't become a good defender and a guy that averages 10 assists a game in 2 years, people will turn on him. It's just, this is the way that fandom has gone, and I think Blake Griffin's just suffering through that right now. I think he's fine as a player. I mean, he's not progressing at a skyrocketing rate, but at the same time, he's still one of the better players in the league, and he does so much. If he can get his shot down, which it looks like he has an issue with his elbow, maybe that opens everything up for him. But he's really talented.
Right. I think that, a guy who scores over 20 points a game and shoots 55% from the field is a guy you want on your team, generally speaking. I think the issue of regression is a particularly interesting one, because I think people can confuse not improving at the rate I expected with getting worse.
Yeah.
And those are two different things. And for young players, when we're so excited about their development, maybe we confuse them. And I'm going to this is a very scientific graph I'm going to show you right now.
Oh, I want to see it.
So when Blake Griffin was a rookie, we expected this.
Yeah.
He gave us this.
Yeah.
Okay? Which made us think he'd actually improve this amount. But there was no improvement. It was just that he was always this good. We just didn't expect him to be this good. Then the next year, he went to here instead of here, which is what we expected, because now we had a decent expectation for his performance. And so we felt disappointed when we really had no right to be, just because we had no understanding of how incredible he was going to be as a rookie.
Every year, Jeff Green's like this, or down here with the expectation right here.
Oh, poor Jeff Green. Poor Jeff Green. First game, after all this preseason hype, first game, he just absolutely no-shows against Miami, which is the team that he's supposed to be so helpful with his athleticism. And he just, he's getting mauled by LeBron. He's no place in the offense yet. Well, the Celtics, had a lot of build-up for what we're seeing so far.
Can we talk about that for an aside?
Just real quick. I want to talk about Darko real quick. is that in the preseason he started. He's going off against European teams, and that was fantastic for him. And Celtics fans are like, oh, maybe he is pretty good. I'm not right very often, but with Darko, I know what the hell I'm talking about because he is just so terrible, and I watched him so much. And like the last couple days, it's been a trickle in of Celtics fans going, oh, I think Zach was right about Darko. Like he's pretty awful. He's pretty much the worst player in the league.
Well, you kind of were shooting just this morbidly obese fish in a tiny barrel. Like the fish wasn't even moving; he was just stuck in the barrel. And so, yes, you did hit him. You got that fish right between the fish eyes. Well, and I deal with this sometimes where people go like, "Oh, why do you hate the Celtics or the Lakers or these popular teams?" And it's just, no, you guys are such good fans, and there are so many of you, and you just have this great tradition that you kind of inject crazy notions into the conversation, and I'm just trying to battle back against those notions, such as Darko Milicic is going to be magically good this year because he's on the Celtics for some reason, and notions like Jeff Green, even though he's older than Rajon Rondo, is going to have a breakout season, and you can tell with the preseason. So, look, it's a testament to how great these fan bases are that these expectations even exist.
Yeah, and I would point out that like it's okay to want to crush the Celtics fan base. Like there's certain people who need to be argued with and rooted against. This is why I'm so excited about how well the Knicks are playing right now because the expectations were low for them. We're getting some more graph hands. Expectations were low. Now they're right. I mean, they are going to be like championship or bust in another week.
Yes.
And that is when they will crushed, and we will soak in there and be nourished by it.
I do like them, though, man. They look like the second seed in the East.
Is it possible the Knicks are the greatest team of all time? I mean, they have just blown everybody away. And what's funny is, like, there was all this talk about the Suns model, then they got some defense. They're playing just like the Mavericks. I mean, that 2011 Mavericks team, there's ball movement, there's three-point shooting, there's good defense. Melo is taking on the role of Dirk, and it's not quite the same, but it's a similar role. I mean, I'm just going to say that 74 isn't out of question.
As long as Tyson Chandler stays healthy and Amare doesn't, they look like the second seed in the East as far as I'm concerned, and it's a small sample size, all that business, and then you look at Boston in comparison, all we heard about over the offseason was Boston's incredible depth. They don't have any depth. They have 4 shooting guards who can't start for a lot of teams. That's not depth. They have a lack of depth. And Jason Terry was bad last year, and he might be bad this year.
I think it's prudent to note that the 76ers are terrible, which means that I got at least one thing right. They look miserable. And the Knicks have played them twice, which will help them. So as long as they keep playing the 76ers 66% of their games, and I think that they have a great chance. This is a really fun question. We're finally going to, we're like begging for these audience questions, and we're finally going to take one. From Bruce Allen, Damian Lillard or Kyrie in a game of one-on-one. I'm going to take Kyrie just because his handle, but I will point out, Damian is seems like a physically stronger guy, and in one-on-one, there's a lot of just like hustling for rebounds and like throwing people out of the way. There's a lot of like ugly moments in one-on-one, and when it goes beyond like the cutesy trying to break each other down, and I see Lillard having a slight advantage there.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just excited about this topic. I think about this a lot. And there's this misconception about one-on-one that you need to be this highly skilled player and that Kobe would beat anyone in one-on-one. No, Kobe wouldn't, because one-on-one, the advantage goes to the rebounder. Rebounds, specifically offensive rebounds, are huge in one-on-one. So guys like Blake Griffin, Melo would be really good. You want somebody like that. There is a possibility that Dwight Howard would beat Kobe Bryant one-on-one just because there's no help defense and he could just rebound his own misses all the time.
I think the assumption there though is that Kyrie would miss, And I just don't see him ever missing a shot in one-on-one. I don't understand why it would happen. Unless he's got 4 defenders flying at him, it just doesn't seem like he can miss.
Okay.
You know who I always thought would be a great, like one of the better one-on-one players in the NBA is Steven Jackson, just because he's crazy enough to think he's the best. He's just good enough offensively, and he's like, he would just be kind of a pit bull on defense and just really, really bother guys. He's a great one-on-one player. He should take up basketball.
Well, that's why you have to play. Here's the question. Is it just straight one-on-one, or is it like one-on-one where you say, check it at the top of the key, 5 dribble max, like those sorts of rules so that the game doesn't get into like guy tries to break you down, doesn't like it, backs out, does it again and again. I mean, I hate that style.
So you've seen Caron Butler play?
Oh,
that's what that's.
Yeah, I saw he had some man boobies in a video I saw this summer, and it appears to have carried over. Okay, is this like a real thing? I have Durant still. I think he's going to come through, but Mr. Clutch wants to know if Melo has a real shot at the MVP. We should note that Stoudemire was like, people really thought Stoudemire could do it when the Knicks were just like 5 games over 500 his first year there. So the New York market is a powerful force here.
Yeah, no, he definitely has a shot at it, and it won't mean that he's the best player in basketball. People are saying now he's trying on defense. I did a lot of watching Carmelo Anthony off the ball last night, and a lot of it was just that Thad Young doesn't move. Thad Young in the Sixers offense stands there, and so Carmelo Anthony just sort of stands next to Thad Young and doesn't have to do anything. And the second there's some sort of switch or Philadelphia gets an offensive rebound and everything's jumbled, Melo was losing his man or just losing track and being completely lost out there. So I don't think that Carmelo Anthony will be the best basketball player, but that New York media force is strong. What I wish I would have done was bet $100 on James Harden as MVP before the season started, because it was probably like 1,000 to 1 odds. And yes, exactly, Astro Beard from Bane. You could pay your mortgage with that.
Ethan, I don't think that's fair to say that. Oh, he's just standing there because Thad Young's standing there. Melo could have sat down. He could have gone and gotten some popcorn. Could have gotten a beer. Like, that's not fair. That's trying. He stood.
Standing isn't fun, That's why I stopped going. That's why I didn't go to Cal football games. I went for freshman year, and the student section is standing room. That's what you have to do. It's the culture of it. And one game I was like, screw this. I'm not standing for 2 hours. It's just effort. So yes, I should give Melo more credit because I wasn't willing to stand for my own entertainment.
When I went to vote today, I drove. It's like 2 blocks, and I drove because what the hell. And so I drove, and I saw there was a line of like, I don't know, maybe 18 to 25 people out the door. And so I just decided to go back home, and I went later in the day because why the hell am I going to stand out there? I love my country, not that much.
Yeah, voting took me 2.5 hours today, and my phone died in like the first 10 minutes because it wasn't in the charger last night, and I was just so feared. I was just like staring at people, and it made me think of that Louis C.K. stand-up about how you never think good thoughts about strangers who you see in public. Like when you're waiting in line, you never look over and are like, yeah, I'm sure they're a good mom and, really does a lot of nice community service. You're always like, I just hate that person. And yeah, I was doing that.
I love that frame of mind. You know what I have it now for? It's when I take my dog to use the bathroom. When he starts to go into a crouch, he gets easily distracted. And it's like, I just want to go back inside when I'm doing that. But if somebody walks by, he'll immediately stop and, say hi to that guy. And I'll just hate that person. Just a venomous, vitriolic hatred. And all this person is doing is conveying himself forward in his daily routine. But just because it selfishly impacts, my time frame there, I just assume the worst things. I assume that they're a bank robber. I don't know why I went bank robber, but something bad.
All right. Well, that's been our moment. Pooch Speak /Poop Speak live.
Speak live.
I want This is another topic floating around there that's sort of interesting. And it depends on how you define backcourt, like whether or not you allow Manu or Kevin Martin to be in this discussion. But best backcourt in the NBA, some say Rockets. I count Manu because I'm a cheater, so I can say Spurs. Where do you guys land?
The whole Spurs thing, it's so hipster. It's like, yes, congratulations. You know about basketball. You know about Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker. Good job. Way to go. Congrats. I would go with a more hipster choice, and that's LeBron James or Dwayne Wade, because really LeBron's a point forward.
I have nothing but, I mean, there's no other answer I can give after last night than J.J. Brea and Alexei Shved. All they did was erase a 22-point deficit and win by 11.
I love how you watched the backcourt of Joe Johnson and Darren Williams, and that was the conclusion that you came to.
Yeah, no, I thought that Joe and Darren would be, maybe at the end of the season they'll be up there. Another one that could be at the end of the season if this team ever stops sucking would be Iguodala and Lawson is like a sneaky good backcourt because they're playing Iguodala at the 2 instead of the 3, and he's he's making threes still, and Lawson has been okay. I don't know. I think they're going to sneak into this conversation, as will Curry and Thompson. It's a deep field. There's a couple of nice backcourts.
What about Lawson and Andre Miller? Andre Miller throws that butt around. He's as good as anybody.
That butt has seen better days. That butt is drooping. It's on the way.
It's a little wider than it needs to be, but once he gets it going,
I have for Butt Speak Live. I have two butt observations over the week. I wrote about this one. Number one, when a Sheik sets a screen, as he's turning away for the roll, he sticks his butt out like Chris Paul warding off a defender, and it puts this barrier in front of the guy chasing James Harden or Jeremy Lin that they have to then run around. It is brilliant. More teams should do it. The other one is that Tyson Chandler often sets screens with his butt / back. He has his back to the man, and he sticks his butt towards the guy he's screening and uses it as a launching pad to run to the rim for an alley-oop, and more people should do that. A few guys in the Knicks do it, as Seth Rosenthal showed me, and now I see it. And that should be your new thing, NBA. Start butt screening.
Here's the problem with Hasheem Thabit's butt. Not just that it's high, but it causes him to walk like a very slow velociraptor, and that's why he can't get any movement. It's an awkward leg stride. His gait is very awkward because his butt is so high.
Oh, good to know. We're just gonna put this on because it's the first time that somebody has submitted a Photoshop. This is Dion Waiters. Get it? Waiters. Okay. Thanks, Steve.
I get it.
All right, let's see. This one. I think we're all in agreement here. Everyone's on board.
Yeah.
Jay Crowder bandwagon, right?
Oh, can we stop this madness where somebody is really good and we know that they're going to go too low and everyone's going, oh, this guy's going to go late in the first round or second round, but he's going to be good, and everybody knows it and it happens anyway? With Crowder, this is just everybody saw this coming. Come on, NBA, what the hell?
And Sean Marion's out with a sprained MCL, so Jay Crowder's going to get a lot of time in the next week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but Crowder is one of these guys, like, for instance, if he went to the Clippers, you could imagine him basically not playing. Like, maybe a few minutes a night, he'd be stuck in that wing rotation. They would never play him at the 4. They'd never use him unconventionally. But, he's going to Carlisle, who is the master of using Marion, this really weird but useful player, and basically turning Crowder into Marion 2.0 with more three-pointers.
Caron Butler needs to go. I'm so sick of Caron Butler. I don't care that he's shooting well. I know he's shooting 60% through 4 games, and that's totally gonna stay at that rate. But he's so unwatchable. He is the least watchable player in the league. It's awful. He's really, really, really aesthetically awful.
I feel that way about Craig Smith and on a bad night, Kevin Martin.
How dare you? Craig Smith's he's a saint. a Rhino and a Saint.
I just feel like players that get the ball, they don't see anything else, and they're just trying to barrel their way. I guess this explains your love of Pekovic quite a bit. But players who just have no vision once they get the ball in the lane bug me.
No vision. Oh, Pekovic is all vision.
Well, he's all vision in that his eyes are very wide set.
Bishovich.
Speaking of Kevin Martin, though, we should note that he's playing really, really well. And one thing that's kind of funky that we're seeing this year is Kevin Durant point forward, especially off of rebounds. It's like so thrilling. I don't know. I don't know how successful it's been so far. It seems like it's leading to a lot of turnovers. But the Kevin Durant led fast break is so fun to watch. It's just like it's so freakish how tall and long he is, and like limbs everywhere, and I don't know. I love it. Cracks me up.
It's early, but per 36, he's at 5.8 assists per 36 and 4.6 turnovers. A lot happening on those plays.
He reminds me, we're going dinosaurs, Galley-Mimeth, who were the runners, the long, lengthy runners?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the creepy little kid in Jurassic Park, he's the one that names it. He's like, Galley-Mimeth.
Kevin Durant.
Oh, good anthropomorphizing of humans who we watch and then, make into alien creatures. All right, and with that, we're going to wrap up real quick. We should first say that we're going to have Devin the Dude on, Devin Carperdian of the Brooklyn game, formerly Nets Are Scorching, is going to come on and talk to us about the creepiest mascot in the NBA, the Brooklyn Knight. If you haven't checked this out, please do. And then Zach will mock him for that victory. I'm sure that will still be fresh in everyone's mind. So, dagger, smash, note. Who wants to dagger?
Zach, here's a dagger.
I will dagger. I really am getting sick of talking about Brandon Roy in the sense that as soon as he makes a good play, it's, but his knees are going to give out. As soon as he makes a bad play, it's, oh my God, look how horrible he's moving. He's fine. He's not great, but he's actually moving fine. He's just not playing well, which could be rust. But we don't have to just chalk it up to bad knees. Like, that's just getting really reactionary and stupid. And, like, just let the season play out. He just had the 3 games in 4 nights. He still moved well at the end of that. He had 7 assists last night, even though he shot the ball poorly. Like, he's going to be a good enough playmaker to be in the rotation. And if that's all he is, that's better than what he was.
He's looked pretty bad, but that's a discussion for now. I have not been very happy with Roy's play, but I don't have to root for him. I'm just noticing. My smash is a hope for more smashes, specifically more Derek Favors smashes. Put this guy in the middle of the court. Stop isolating him on the baseline. He has nowhere to go. He's not a ball handler passer. That's a weird spot to be. Give him those high pick and rolls and let him just crash from the middle or shoot 15-footers, which he looks pretty comfortable doing. More Favors smashes, please. And
does it bother you? Does it bother you that he can't get playing time?
Yeah, I'm not. Well, here's the weird thing. I don't know if I can remember a roster as lopsided as Utah, where there's just like the front court or they had last night. Basically, they lost the game because Randy Foye was having a very, very tough time as the backup point guard against Jared Bayless's pressure, and they couldn't get anything going, and no one could enter the ball into Favors. And then when they played Favors with Mo Williams, who's like a competent pick and roll point guard, some nice things happened. Gordon Hayward's probably their best pick and roll option many times because he's so tall, you just drop it over to Favors. But it's a funky roster. Something has to happen. I assume that they are going to make things happen soon because they have 4 starting caliber big men, and they have like 1 starting caliber guard. So they need to sort that out.
And that guard is still Jeff Hornacek.
All right. Well, our noted is that Ethan had to leave. Obviously, he's doing a little interview here. So we're going to wrap with, as always, Roger Bain. Take us home. HoopSpeak Live. We'll be back Thursday. Thanks for watching, guys.
I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis, a mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Everybody buzzing by